Hey, what is going on, everybody? It's JJ. It's Bull to the Bust, or BX4. It is Friday, November 20th, 2020. I hope everyone out there had a good week. And coming up this weekend, I'll probably put out a report for my Patreons. I apologize, there was a delay getting my last video out. It turns out that the attack dogs and the content police basically are in full force, so I had to go back and revise a video that I had recorded. I'll try to explain more. Just type in Bull Boom blog. That'll take you to the home page. Look in the left panel. That'll be the link over to Patreon if you'd like to follow me there. And you can also help support this channel. Channels like this really do not get put at the tip of the search results, if you know what I mean. But let's get into some news. We got a lot of information to cover today. I tweeted this out. The economic recovery, in quotations, was a debt binge fueled illusion. 20% of 3,000 of the country's largest publicly traded companies are zombie status, and those that status means companies aren't earning enough to cover their interest expenses, right? So we know that corporations have taken on enormous amounts of debt, many of them, and the problem is their earnings aren't enough to even cover the interest on the debt, but yet a lot of these same companies, the stock is still rising, so their profits aren't showing long-term survivability, and but yeah, it's just in crazy times right now. So I would call this a bozo land economy, crazy town. I mean, there's a lot of different phrases we've used over the years. You let me know down in comments what you think about what this type of economy is. But here's a chart here. It shows zombie firms, and right now they're sitting on $1.4 trillion worth of debt obligations here, and we see to the far right, this is 2020, and of course the infection shutdown had a lot to do with it. But when you look back at 2008, 2009 financial crisis era, and we see the level back then, we see that in the past few years, we were creeping upward, and 2020, of course, just blew it out of the water. But let's stay on Twitter for a bit here to talk about where we may be headed as a country, as a people, as an economy. Kyle Griffin tweeted out the following: 44 days from now, the pandemic emergency, unemployment compensation ends, the eviction moratorium ends, state and local funding stops flowing, 2020 rebate checks and student loan forbearance ends, credit for family and sick leave for self-employed individuals ends. A lot of things are ending. I would argue that the rebate checks, they've haven't been much help. And this reply right here, the government, we gave you $1,200. Good luck out there. That's pretty much summing it up here. So what's going to happen? Is there going to be another rescue program? Because it seems like there's a lot of gridlock in the political world right now, and I don't see much getting done. And a lot of people that communicate with me, they're saying that both sides are basically of the same coin, and we're talking about the left and the right here. And they're saying that the disputes that are happening, the accusations going back and forth, are part of a big show to make people think that there really is a left versus right situation happening right now. But in the background, the mega rich continue to get rich, the banks get more powerful, the bankers, the puppet masters, and it's starting to look more and more like that. Now, if you go back and you've heard me speak on these episodes, there's been at times where I've had some hopes that we would see some sort of new economic system emerge and that some solutions would be implemented. And I don't see that happening. There are a few people that still say that something's in the works behind the scenes. But what would fix this mess? What would fix this problem? Sound money. Sound money would fix this problem. It's that simple. Right? Would everything be perfect? Of course not. Nothing's ever going to be perfect. But sound money, that means you would have a currency that's based on a hard asset. We used to have it before 1971. We were on the gold standard. Now we slowly got taken off the gold standard, and 71 is when the dollar became completely detached from gold. But up until then, it had been fractionally attached, and going back prior to 1913, it was a 1-to-1 ratio, meaning you could take your paper bill and convert it for a certain amount of gold. And back then it was about $35 an ounce for gold. But yes, sound money, that's all you would need to do. The asset bubbles would not be created if it if it was sound money. Think about it. Banks could not loan out endless amounts of money. And we know what happens when banks loan out a lot of money is asset bubbles rise, right? Because you have people bidding up prices. Just think about real estate. People that actually don't have the money are bidding up the prices of real estate because they're getting loans, they're getting mortgages. And the reason banks can loan out all this money for these overvalued houses, here in California, San Diego, in my area, we're talking nearly $700,000 median home price. Banks don't have that much money in reserves. They're loaning out money that doesn't exist. They're creating it out of nothing, right? And people talk about the central banks are printing money. Not really. It's the lending institutions that are actually creating the money out of thin air. And sure, the Fed comes in and backstops it with bond purchases, MBSs, you name it. Right, but sound money would bring prices down to affordability. Why? Because people would only be able to pay what they have. If something costs more than they have, they wouldn't be able to purchase it unless there's a bank out there that's willing to really take the risk and loan out actual money that's actually based on a hard asset, in this case gold. And all they have to do really is use gold, silver, and palladium. Now, there's going to be people out there, they're going to say that's crazy talk, that can never happen. It can happen. It can happen. If we had leaders that really wanted it to happen, we could happen. But why don't they want it to happen? Because the people that are benefiting from the system the most, that are gaining the most wealth, are the people running the system. You see what I'm getting at here? Okay, enough of my rant. Let's continue here with some other tweets. Wolf Richter tweeted out the following. That's Wolf Richter of wolfstreet.com. No payment, no problem. In the rosy world of forbearance, official delinquencies plunge, credit scores of delinquent borrowers jump. Credit score algos get fooled by forbearance. Weirdest economy ever, where no one knows what's going on anymore. Absolutely. So because they're not dinging people's credit for not paying their mortgage, credit scores actually are rising for a lot of these people that are in some cases months and months behind on their mortgage. And what does he call it here? Wolf calls it the weirdest economy ever. Again, Bozo Land, Crazy Town, Twilight Zone. I mean, everything is being propped up right now. But go back to Kyle Griffin's tweet, and he was basically retweeting about what Politico put out there. Is all of this propping going to end at the end of the year? Right? It's hard to imagine a world where they just let everything expire. All of these rescue programs. It almost seems too bad to be true, and that's why a lot of people are just complacent, and they're saying, well, they'll come in with another rescue package, they'll extend it, extend and pretend, or lend, extend, and pretend, like we always say here. And if it does end, think about how bad this is going to be. Let's just talk about mortgages. At Robinson Henry tweeted out the following. A mortgage forbearance is supposed to help homeowners having trouble paying their mortgage. Depending on the terms of your agreement, you may owe a large payment when the forbearance ends. How many people are going to be able to go back and pay 5, 6, 7, 8 months worth of mortgage payments and get caught up? You see what I'm getting at here? So if this ends, it's going to be absolute disaster, nightmare for the housing market, or a heaven for the housing market if you're a buyer waiting for prices to come down, because you would see an absolute collapse in prices. Because the supply and the foreclosures would severely outnumber the number of buyers. And even with the loose lending and banks unleashed, zero reserve requirement banks, you would still see a massive surge in inventory, in my opinion. John Eckstein tweeted out the following. Good chart of stocks and flows out of auto and mortgage forbearance. So go back here to the beginning of the lockdown recession, back here in March, and we see the big surge in forbearance programs. The mortgages are in the gold color, autos in the blue. Guess what? We came down a little bit, but we're nowhere near where we started back before the lockdown recession. So another chart, again, more evidence that this recovery, it's not really a recovery. We're not back where we started, not even close. And it's likely going to take a turn for the worse here coming up very soon, especially, again, if these rescue programs are allowed to expire. At the Market Dog tweeted out the following. Airbnb hoping they can get forbearance. Can you imagine being someone that owns multiple properties to rent out as Airbnbs, and now basically your business is shut down? Well, this is the number of short-term rentals, and this is the year-over-year change in booked Airbnb and VRBO listings worldwide. So we see the about a 30% drop in some cases. This is every month since the shutdown, since the lockdown. Are banks going to give forbearance on people that own multiple properties? You would think that someone that owns multiple properties would not need the help. You would think that you'd want to help people keep their primary home, keep a roof over their head, and have a place to live instead of helping investors and business people. But in this crazy system that we're all living under, I wouldn't be surprised to see the rescue operation for Airbnb business owners there. Speaking of relief expiring, Mnuchin, his Fed move is like stripping the Titanic of its lifeboats. That's what economists are saying, some economists. U.S. Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin decided to allow key pandemic relief programs to expire December 31st. The move is expected to drastically reduce the central bank's ability to shore up the financial system. So you see, it's all about Fed rescue, it's all about stimulus, it's all about relief programs. And as soon as those programs stop or are discontinued, it's a disaster out there, folks. I don't know how else to say it to you. Hope you're doing well. Stay prepared. Continue to look at the real economy and not the illusionary economy that's being put out there in many cases. We'll end this for now. Maybe we'll see you on the weekend. We'll definitely see over the weekend over on Patreon. Promise I'm finishing that upload. Thanks everybody for watching. Appreciate you being here. Stay well, stay safe, stay prepared. Bye for now. Peace.